Welcome to Shared Passing Thoughts. Today we are going to be looking at an Amethyst Ruby mid-range deck from Lorcana's first chapter. The deck is all about cards with an ink cost of 5 or less, and we will be running 4 copies of each card mentioned for this deck, in order to provide consistency. Your Amethyst characters and actions will provide draw effects and abilities to keep your hand from running out of cards, while your Ruby characters and actions will deal with banishing your opponent's threats. This combination of drawing and banishing cards with an ink cost cap of 5 will allow for you to be an offensive threat that isn't as worried about applying constant pressure against your opponent. So let's look at the individual cards for this deck, starting with the 1 ink cost cards. We will only be running 2 1 ink cost cards, which are basically the same. Those cards being the characters Archimedes and Sergeant Tibbs. These 2 character cards are in the deck for an early board presence, and for some flexibility, providing 2 strength for some challenging options, and 1 lore for questing, as well as the 2 willpower, which could be relevant in some circumstances. Archimedes and Sergeant Tibbs are good for challenging other 1 ink cost cards, much like themselves, as well as challenging cards such as Gaston, Grandma Tala, Magic Brooms, and Maleficent Sorceress. You will want to play these cards on turn 1, and then maybe ink them later on, depending on if you need more lore or extra strength for challenging with board presence. Next are the 2 ink cost cards. We will be running 3 different character cards at this level. First is Gaston, a 4 strength and 2 willpower character with Reckless. Gaston is in this deck to challenge your opponent's cards, and he can remove a lot of threats depending on your matchup, such as Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, Zeus, Genie on the Job, Cusco, Mad Hatter, Belle Strange but Special, and Robin Hood. We also run LeFou Instigator with 2 strength, 2 power, and 1 lore value. LeFou's ability to ready a chosen character at the cost of that character not being able to quest for the rest of this turn is an ability that can allow some of your challenging characters to remove multiple threats in a single turn. The last 2 ink cost card we run is Magic Broom, a 2 strength, 2 willpower, and 1 lore value character with an ability to shuffle a card from any discard into that player's deck. Magic Broom is mainly in this deck as a combo piece for Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, although Magic Broom can also remove some of your opponent's recursion options, such as Hades, Lord of the Underworld, Part of Your World, Lady Tremaine, Do It Again, Tamatoa, If It's Not Broke, and Captain Hook, Captain of the Jolly Roger. All of these 2 ink cost cards are inkable, so play them when relevant and ink them as needed. Now for the 3 ink cost cards, which this deck runs 4 of. Let's start with Friends on the Other Side, an action that can be sung as a song, which draws you 2 cards. If you need more cards to maintain board presence, or need to try and find out your removal options, this card will help out. Plus, playing it for 0 ink cost by exerting a 3 or higher ink cost character you control can allow you to have enough ink to play whatever you draw with it. Our next 3 ink cost card is Elsa Snow Queen, a character with 2 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore value. She also has the ability to exert a chosen character by exerting herself. This ability is our main reason for running her, since she can exert an opposing character so that our challenging characters can remove our opponent's threats. Elsa can also combo nicely with LeFou's ability if there are multiple targets which you can deal with. Moving on to Maleficent, a character with 2 strength, 2 willpower, and 1 lore value, and the ability to draw a card when she enters play. Maleficent Sorceress gives you some board presence while also adding a card to your hand, so she will almost always feel like a card which gives you value when you play her. Our final 3 ink cost card is Rafiki, a 3 strength, 3 willpower, 1 lore value character with Rush. Rafiki's downside is that he is uninkable, but the upside is that he can challenge the turn he has played. which makes him an early game removal option. Rafiki can be a removal tool for dealing with himself, Simba Protective Cub, Elsa Snow Queen, Cheshire Cat, Corella Deville, Hans, and Hercules. Moving on to our 4 ink cost cards, we run 3 characters. First, let's look at Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer, a 3 strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore value character with the ability to make our broom characters cost 1 ink less to play, and the ability to return a broom character to our hand whenever it is banished in a challenge. Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer is our combo piece for Magic Brooms, creating a recursion loop that will provide a threat for our opponent to deal with. We will also be running Zeus with 0 strength, 4 willpower, 2 lore value, rush, and challenger +4. Zeus is our second uninkable card, but he makes up for this by being able to challenge the turn he enters play for a great removal option for this deck. Zeus can challenge and banish the same threats that Gaston can deal with. However, Zeus can deal with those threats immediately, and he is more likely to survive when compared to Gaston. The last 4 ink cost card we run is Jafar Wicked Sorcerer, a 2 strength, 5 willpower, 1 lore value character with challenger +3. Jafar is another removal piece for this deck, who can challenge and banish himself, as well as Rapunzel Gifted with Healing, Stitch Rockstar, Dr. Facilier, the Queen, John Silver, Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, Maui Hero to All, Aurora Dreaming Guardian, and Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. Now we have arrived at our highest ink cost cards, being ink cost 5, and we will be running 2 characters in 1 action. The action card is Dragonfire, and our last uninkable card for this deck. Dragonfire is one of the best removals in this deck, since it can banish a character instantly, regardless of the character's willpower. However, we do run another contender for the best removal card in this deck, which is Maui Hero to All, a character with 6 strength, 5 willpower, rush, and reckless. Maui can easily banish multiple characters by himself, since he can survive many challenges against your opponent's threats, and then swing again. Maui can deal with cards such as Elsa Spirit of Winter, Hades Infernal Schemer, and himself, and he can deal with these threats the turn that he has played. The last and final card to mention for this deck is the Queen, a 4 strength, 5 willpower, and 1 lore value character with the ability to draw a card by exerting her. The Queen is a flexible option to provide board presence, have the option to constantly draw an extra card each turn, and to ink her in the early game or mid game as needed. Well, that is it for this Amethyst Ruby mid-range deck. Like this video and share your passing thoughts in the comments below.